Hi everyone. I mainly wanted to apologize real quick for not having uploaded any new videos recently. As you know, some of the last videos I did make were mainly about mm, religion and occultism, though I didn't really know that I was getting into the occult at that time. It started with me, explaining about the meaning of the symbols in communism and socialism. Uh, and of course, I don't mean that I was getting into the occult. I'm not. I'm not into the occult. Though I actually used to be into the occult without actually knowing it. um, because I don't know if I ever talked about this before on my English channel. I talked about it on my German channel, and I also talked about it in some of my recent interviews with people on other channels. But I don't think I ever mentioned this um, on my own English speaking channel. And that's that I grew up in, um, well, essentially, I don't really like that word, but um, essentially a cult. And in this case, even though I don't like that word because it's derogatory, but actually, originally, it comes from, well, it comes from cultivate, actually, in the sense of, you know, I don't know, cultivate your spirituality or something. That's actually where the word comes from. So originally, it wasn't a derogatory term. But even as a derogatory term, in this case, it actually fits. Uh, because because in this case, as a derogatory term, it kind of it makes you think of the occult, and that's exactly what it was. I grew up in an occult cult. Um, yeah, a Gnostic cult, and so yeah, they had typical Gnostic beliefs because I didn't know that all this me trying to understand communism and socialism better, and me trying to understand the symbols better led me into actually, because those symbols are all occult Gnostic symbols. So I started to look into Gnosticism, into occult Gnosticism, and I realized, hey, wait a minute, this sounds familiar, because this is exactly what I actually grew up in myself. Because even though my mother actually was a communist and not just a normal member uh, of the Communist Party in Eastern Germany, but actually basically an official. So she was an atheist, but she also was very much into the occult. And there was a time, actually quite a few years, um, where she dragged me into this Gnostic, well, basically commune. It was like a commune. It was like, we were living on, uh, like these huge areas of farmland, and we were living there in communal conditions, everyone supposedly being equal, and everyone living and working, well, basically for the cult. And this let's let's stop with the let's stop with the C word. um, this new religious movement, um, they actually, on the surface, they claim to be sort of, uh, kind of like your nowadays it'd be like woke Christians, like left wing liberal Christians, like liberation theology, that kind of stuff. That's probably what you would call them nowadays. Back then it was, well, back then we basically called these people hippies. And so, yeah, and it was really a Gnostic religion. Their beliefs, they branded themselves as Christians, as the only true Christians, of course. But in reality, now that I've looked into Gnosticism, I realized that all their teachings had nothing to do with Christianity and everything to do with Gnosticism. Well, and Gnosticism is, well, Gnosticism is kind of complicated because it should actually be a religion of its own, but it never is. There isn't a religion, you know, you can't go walk into a church of Gnosticism. That doesn't exist, right? Instead, Gnosticism isn't a religion of its own, but it attaches itself to other religions, to Christianity, to Judaism, to Buddhism, to Islam, whatever religion. And then it like presents itself as you know, as some higher gnosis, you know. It presents itself as, oh yeah, we know the truth, you know. If you actually read the Bible upside down and from right to left, and count each second word and multiply it by the number 13, then you come to the conclusion that the Bible actually says the exact opposite of what it says on the surface. You know, that kind of stuff. And they presented that as a kind of higher knowledge. And as the true Christianity, even though it's really just Gnosticism and it's the same in any other religion. You know, it always uses the religion, whether it be Islam or Christianity or whatever, it uses that as a form, but the actual teachings are always the same, and they're always Gnostic teachings. So what does Gnosticism teach? Gnosticism, in a nutshell, well, you've all seen The Matrix, right? That's what Gnosticism teaches. Gnosticism teaches that, well, and that's also where it goes, you know, it gets a little dark, and it goes a little bit into Luciferianism, which is also Gnosticism, because, like I said, it can attach itself to any religion. Basically, Jehovah is actually supposed to be the bad guy, right? In Gnosticism, that's what they teach, and that's what they taught me as a child, even though they claimed they were Christians. You know, and I was like, I didn't know any other form of Christianity. I thought that it would be normal in Christianity, that being taught that Jehovah would essentially be the devil. I thought that would be a normal Christian teaching. I didn't know any better, right? So anyway, that's also where it's a bit similar to Luciferianism, because everything is upside down. Jehovah is supposed to be the bad guy, and not just the bad guy. They call him the demiurge, and they say that's Jehovah. Jehovah would be the demiurge, and the demiurge in Gnosticism is essentially the devil. You know, they regard him as being really evil. You know, and you know, even though they say he created this physical world, the material world we live in. They say that would actually be a prison, you know. So Jehovah isn't the actual God. He's actually basically the devil who created this material physical world as a prison. So the material world isn't real. It's just a prison and an illusion that the evil Jehovah put us in. And the good guy, that would actually be Lucifer, right? That's what they teach, essentially. Or, you know, sometimes they call him Lucifer directly. Sometimes they even call him Satan. Sometimes they call him Prometheus. You know, whatever. But it's always, you know, that type of figure, a Lucifer-like figure, a Prometheus-like figure. You know, so Lucifer would be supposed to be the good god, and he's trying to help us and free us from the matrix, so to say, right? And we're supposed to break out of the matrix. How do you break out of the matrix? Well, the easiest way would be well, don't do that. Uh, but there are some people who commit bad things after believing that, right? And maybe you can see why. Because if you think this is a prison, this, the material world is all an illusion, and we have to break out of it, you can see how that might lead some crazy people to do some bad things. Anyway, so yeah, I think that's enough for now. Otherwise, this is gonna get too long, and I'm gonna ramble too much. But if you want to know more about my experience and want to know more about the methods and the tactics used in Gnosticism. And when I talk about Gnosticism, I mean this kind of Luciferian modern day Gnosticism. I don't mean ancient Gnosticism. I don't think there's anything wrong with ancient Gnosticism, but this is not what I mean. I mean this kind of Luciferian modern stuff, right? So yeah, that's actually really dark and sinister, and it was really, and that's why I didn't make any videos for a while, because uh, it took me some time to process this, and to reflect on all these evil things that I was indoctrinated with without even really feel fully uh, being aware and understanding them. So anyway, if you want me to continue to try and expose this stuff and want to know more about this stuff, I created a little group on Telegram about exposing such Gnostic occult um, things. Uh, link is in the description.